The math of inherited wealth is brutally logical. A $983,400 windfall is not a permanent solution, but a high-stakes stress test of your financial discipline. At 34 years old, with $18,700 in credit card debt and a $61,000 salary, you are currently watching the slow-motion evaporation of a legacy through a $54,200 SUV and $37,000 in unrecoverable family loans. Most people do not go broke through vice. They go broke through the quiet, rationalized erosion of capital that occurs when an untrained balance sheet meets a lifetime of suppressed desires. Picture a man named Grayson sitting behind a heavy mahogany desk while you stare out his window at the gray concrete of a parking garage. He doesn't say much, just pushes a stack of papers across the wood and points to page 4. You sign your name, and in return, he slides over a certified copy of a trust transfer. Your grandmother's name is right there on the front. She passed away exactly 11 days ago, but the truth is, the two of you hadn't exchanged a single word in 3 years. There was no big fight or dramatic exit. It was just a quiet, mutual drifting apart that neither of you ever bothered to name. Does the silence even matter now? Probably not, because your eyes are locked on line 7. It says $1,047,000. By the time the government and Grayson take their cuts for estate taxes and legal fees, you are looking at $983,400 hitting your account. You leave the office and climb into your 2014 Civic, a car with a dashboard that looks like a lightning bolt hit it and a passenger window that lets the wind whistle through the seal. You drive home in total silence, no radio, just that number looping in your head like a broken record. When the wire finally clears on a Wednesday, you check the app. Then you check it again. Then a third time, just to be sure. It's like staring at a deep ocean where the water never ripples. Those zeros are perfectly still. You're 34 years old, pulling in $61,000 a year as an inventory manager for a regional distributor. Your financial life up to this point has been modest: $11,200 in savings, $29,000 in a 401k, and $18,700 in credit card debt. You literally have $214 left to last you until your next paycheck. And now, suddenly, there is $983,400 sitting in a basic checking account, earning basically zero interest. How does that feel? Honestly, it's not the rush you see in movies. It's disorienting. It feels like waking up in your own house, but finding that every single light switch is 6 inches lower than it used to be. You know where you are, but your hands keep hitting the wrong spots. You read online that you should wait 60 days before making any big moves. That's solid, logical advice. You tell yourself you'll follow it, but you only last 19 days. You end up at a dealership looking at a Mercedes GLC 300. It's a 14-month-old pre-owned model with 9,400 miles and every feature you can imagine. The sticker says $58,900, but you talk them down to $54,200. You tell yourself this is a disciplined move. After all, the Civic was a safety hazard, right? This isn't a splurge. It's an investment in being a responsible adult. When you sign the check, it doesn't feel like you're losing money. It feels like you've been handed a universal key to every door that used to be locked. The balance drops to $929,200, though you aren't really keeping a formal tally. You definitely should be. Then the phone rings. It's your mother. She's in a situation, and apparently, your younger brother is in a different situation at the exact same time. Mom needs $22,000 to stop a foreclosure. She calls it a loan, but you know the history. She has never paid back a dime to anyone in her life. Your brother needs $15,000 to clear a judgment from a lawsuit involving a business that folded a long time ago. You send the wire for $37,000 without any contracts or even a real talk about when you'll see that money again. You tell yourself that taking care of blood is the only reason to have a bank account in the first place. You feel like a hero for about 6 days. But the reality is your balance is now $892,200, and your lease is up in March. For 4 years, you've paid $1,100 a month for a one-bedroom with walls so thin you can hear your neighbor's microwave and a parking spot that costs extra. Then a coworker mentions a spot on the north side, 2 bedrooms, your own laundry, and underground parking for $2,650 a month. What would you do? Have you ever felt the pressure of a windfall starting to leak through the cracks? Comment below and... The moment you walk through a luxury apartment on a Thursday afternoon and see those quartz countertops, you are already in trouble. By the end of that same week, You've signed the lease for a place with 2 bedrooms, in-unit laundry, and underground parking. It costs $2,650 every single month, exactly 3 times your old rent. You tell yourself it is fine because you have the cash, but let's be real for a second. Is being able to pay for something the same thing as making a smart financial move? You don't even stop to ask. Instead, you head to a design studio and drop $14,800 on furniture just to match the new aesthetic. Suddenly, your balance is $877,400, and you stop checking the bank app every day. Why? Because wealth has a strange magnetic pull. It's like a massive planet that bends the path of everything passing by. Your lifestyle just starts orbiting a new, more expensive sun. Your social circle starts changing, too. Random casual friends are suddenly your best buddies, and the people you actually know start showing up with business pitches. A guy from college you haven't talked to in 4 years reaches out because he is building an app. He needs a $40,000 bridge loan to get to his Series A round. He shows you a professional pitch deck, and the idea sounds reasonable enough. He promises the loan will turn into discounted equity once the round closes. You give him the $40,000. But guess what? The round never closes. That money is just gone, evaporated into the digital ether, and you're too embarrassed to tell a soul. Now you're down to $837,400. Have you ever noticed how the most dangerous financial leaks are the ones you can't hear? You're now burning through $6,000 to $8,000 a month on a lifestyle that used to cost you $2,200 just 11 months ago. There isn't one single purchase that looks like a disaster. It's the constant drip 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 of picking up dinner tabs, booking the 5-star hotels for the group, and paying for the Airbnb that your friends never quite get around to splitting. 14 months after that first wire hit, you look at the screen and realize you have $704,000 left. You spend an afternoon looking at statements, but you convince yourself everything is cool. $704,000 is still a ton of money, right? That's the exact logic that will leave you with nothing. Then your brother calls. He's got a food truck idea. He found a used truck for $28,000 and wants $60,000 total to launch. You feel like a shark because you negotiate him down to $50,000 for a 30% stake. It's a handshake deal, no LLC, no paperwork, no operating agreement. Just vibes. 6 weeks later, the engine blows, and it's an $11,000 repair that his original budget can't cover. You wire another $8,000 because you think you're protecting your investment. Your balance is now $646,000. Finally, at month 16, you find a financial advisor. You should have done this on day 1, but here you are. You don't even know enough to ask if he's a fiduciary, and he isn't. He pushes you into actively managed mutual funds with a 1.4% expense ratio and a whole life insurance policy. You put $200,000 into the funds and $18,000 into the first year's insurance premium. For the first time in a long time, you actually feel like you're doing the right thing. But are you? What do you think? Is this a comeback or just the next phase of the drain? Hit the like button and subscribe to see how this plays out in the next part. For the first time since that original wire hit your account, you finally feel like you have a grip on things. You're being responsible, right? Your liquid balance outside of those long-term investments is sitting at $428,000. And things are finally starting to move. I'm not talking about your brother's food truck. That thing is currently bleeding cash behind the scenes, but a real opportunity. You meet a guy at dinner through a friend of a friend who pitches you on a self-storage facility 3 hours south. It's got 340 units, 71% occupancy, and a path to 88% within 18 months. He's promising a 14% cash-on-cash return once it stabilizes. You don't hire a lawyer to look at the operating agreement, and you don't independently verify a single occupancy stat. You just wire the $120,000 for a 20% equity stake. Suddenly, you're down to $308,000 in liquid cash, and this is where the house of cards starts to wobble. You haven't just made a bad choice, you've built a faulty foundation. It's like trying to support a skyscraper on a base made of dry sand. The moment the wind blows, there's no structural integrity left to save you. You have zero margin for error now. In month 4, you get a check for $3,400. Month 5, it's $2,100. Then, the faucet just shuts off. Your contact stops picking up the phone, and when he finally does, it's always the same story. Stabilization is just 1/4 away. By month 12, the facility is in receivership. You get a letter saying you might recover 11 to 18 cents on the dollar, but you don't even open the follow-up envelopes. Deep down, you already know the contents. Meanwhile, that mutual fund portfolio you felt so good about has tanked 14%. Your $200,000 safety net is now worth $172,000. Your advisor tells you this is just normal market volatility, and while he's technically right, he's conveniently ignoring that 1.4% expense ratio that eats your lunch whether the market goes up, down, or sideways. Then, in month 22, the food truck dies. Your brother gives you a heartfelt apology that feels completely empty because it doesn't put a single penny back in your pocket. The bank took the truck, the gear was auctioned off, and your 30% stake is worth exactly zero. You just have to swallow that $58,000 loss and keep moving. When you actually sit down to do the math, you realize you have about $130,000 in liquid cash and $172,000 in a shrinking fund. But here is the kicker. You're still spending $7,400 a month. You've been living like that for over a year and haven't changed a thing. Your job as an inventory manager only brings in $5,083 before taxes. You are burning through your cushion at a rate that is mathematically impossible to sustain. The safety net hasn't just frayed, it has vanished. You eventually move into a cheaper apartment for $1,650 a month, and that high-end furniture you bought for $14,800 looks completely out of place, like wearing a tuxedo to a backyard barbecue. You sell most of it for a measly $3,200 on Facebook Marketplace, though you keep the couch. As for the Mercedes, it's costing you $714 a month and you're $9,000 underwater on the loan. You keep making the payments because you're terrified to admit the loss, but that hesitation is going to cost you 4 more months of payments before you finally give up and trade it in. Have you ever stayed in a bad deal just to avoid admitting you were wrong? Tell me about it in the comments. Be sure to hit the bell and subscribe so you can see how this story ends. Imagine waking up on a Sunday morning during your 31st month of this journey and realizing you have 19.6 cents left for every dollar you started with. You log into your accounts and see the cold reality. $34,700 in checking and a mutual fund that's withered down to $158,000. That is a total of $192,700. You started with $983,400. Where did it go? It didn't disappear in one giant explosion. It leaked out in small drips, each one backed by a reason that didn't seem crazy at the time. But together, those drips formed a weight that snapped the beam. It's like a termite infestation in a house. You don't notice the wood is being eaten until the roof is suddenly sitting in your living room. When you finally tell your advisor to liquidate the mutual fund, you walk away with $141,200 after the taxman and the fee collectors take their slice. You immediately use $23,400 of that to kill the credit card debt you've been quietly stacking back up. Now you're 37 years old with exactly $152,500 to your name. You still have that $61,000 salary, but you've paid $830,900 for a financial education that doesn't offer a refund. It's a steep tuition, isn't it? What have you actually learned? You've learned that having cash in your pocket isn't the same as being wealthy, and a big number on a screen isn't a strategy. You've learned that lifestyle inflation is a silent assassin. It doesn't shout, it just slowly turns up the heat until you're cooked. Looking back, you see that those investments you made without contracts or research were really just donations with imaginary paperwork. And when your family came to you with their emergencies, they weren't the problem. Your inability to say no was. Money doesn't care about your good intentions or your kind heart. It only tracks the math of your choices. You didn't lose a fortune because of bad luck. You lost it because wealth is a mirror that shows you exactly who you are before you're prepared to look. Your grandmother sat on her money for 40 years and never let it change her life. You used to think she was just being cheap or overly cautious, but now you see it might have been a very specific kind of wisdom. Was that wisdom something she could have taught you, or was it just part of her DNA? You'll never know the answer to that. As they say, that question doesn't have a third Tuesday. If this story hit home for you, hit the like button and subscribe for more deep dives into the reality of wealth. What would you have done differently?